Endurance: The Power Within by April Thomas. Chapter 5. I can't believe my uncle canceled on me. He never has a date, Max complained to Nelson as they drove towards Zach's house party. Hey, maybe it's fate. You never know, man, Nelson replied, too excited to care. He was just happy that everything had worked out in his favor. Hey, pull over here to the gas station. I need to get something, Nelson requested. All right. Max pulled into the gas station and parked next to a gas pump. Max, isn't that May, your girl? Nelson teased, pointing over to May. She was standing in front of the gas station's entrance, drinking a bottle of water. She is hot, Nelson exclaimed. May stood by the entrance of the convenience store. The soft, Florida night air gently glided through her long wavy hair, creating the perfect frame around her face. She glanced in their direction. Her angelic face glowed. She wore dark skinny jeans and a tight tank top. May had a beautiful hourglass shape and a vibrant golden complexion. She was utterly unaware of her beauty. Max observed the men walking past her, staring and making vulgar gestures behind her back as they walked into the convenience store. He unexpectedly became jealous, but reminded himself that she was not his girl. I want her to be, he whispered. Go talk to her, man. You can't just stare at her for the rest of your life. Nelson pushed, overhearing his words. I don't know, Max replied, yet his focus stayed on May. I'm behind you. Do it. Come on. Let's go. Nelson urged, jumping out of the vehicle. Max reluctantly followed. His heart loudly pounded in his chest as the distance between them shortened. May didn't notice him. Her gaze was fixed on an approaching car. Is she waiting for someone? Max thought. She is beautiful. She has to have a boyfriend. What am I thinking? She'll never go for me, Max silently complained to himself. May suddenly switched her gaze to Max as he approached. He realized she was upset. Her eyes appeared puffy. However, he could still see those beautiful, emerald green eyes. She looked sad, more than usual. His nervousness turned to concern, not realizing how much her well-being meant to him. He opened his mouth to ask if she was okay when someone shouted her name. Everyone in the vicinity turned towards the voice of Cora Pennington. May. Cora called once more as she walked towards her friend, embracing her. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? Cora asked as Max and Nelson continued to walk past. What did she mean by did he hurt you? Max questioned himself. Did some boyfriend hurt her? Max pondered under his breath. If I ever had the chance to be with her, I would treasure every minute. Why would anyone want to hurt someone that beautiful? He thought. Max became overburdened with all of his thoughts. I am getting drunk tonight. He suddenly blurted out loud. Everyone turned in the direction of the unexpected outburst. A mixture of disapproving stares was followed by an eruption of foolish laughter. The gas station attendant was among the less amused, shaking his head in disgust. Nelson picked up a pack of condoms and spearmint gum before heading to the cash register. What happened out there? I thought you were going to stop, Nelson teased. It looked like a bad time, Max mumbled under his breath. I thought you had my back. Max returned as he waited for Nelson to finish paying. Well, I can't talk to her for you, Nelson chuckled after collecting his change from the cashier. They make their way back out of the convenience store, all while Max's mind is consumed by mysterious thoughts surrounding May. Well, on to the next, Nelson exclaimed, jumping into the passenger side of the Suburban. Max said nothing as he entered the driver's seat and drove off. Okay, girl, what happened? Cora questioned. You look pissed. May had sat quietly for the past 5 minutes, staring out the car window. I just can't deal with this anymore, May sighed. He was trying to break into my room tonight. Thank God. I heard him and could get out before he got it. Cora, I just don't know what to do. I'm tired. I can only fight him off for so long, May explained. May, please tell me you didn't cut yourself again. Cora heatedly questioned. Did you hear me? My stepfather is trying to rape me, May snapped. I heard you, but you can't give up. You can let that bastard win. I love you. And I know your mom would not be able to go on if something happened to you. What if you cut an artery and bleed to death, or the doctors couldn't stitch you back up? Cora drilled. Would it be so bad? May mumbled. Cora's mouth dropped, shocked at her friend's reply. Yes, May. Cora sternly expressed while holding back her tears. I just want a drink, May replied. Then, I won't care, she stated. I don't know if that's a good idea. Mei, why don't you just sleep at my house tonight? We can buy some junk food and watch some girly movies. Cora suggested, shoving her wants aside for her friend's needs. No, I'll be fine. Besides, my mom doesn't know that I'm out. She thinks I'm locked in my room sleeping. That Chinese woman might be short and tiny, but she will beat my ass in a time, May joked, trying to lighten the air. Cora, you're a great friend. I wouldn't be here today without you, May smiled, looking over at her. Sweet, but I can't take all the credit, Cora stated, pointing up towards the roof of the car. May just smiled and nodded in agreement. Cora was not your perfect Christian teen, but she loved God and was not afraid to show it. Cora's faith always inspired and intrigued May to have a relationship with God. However, the anger and contempt she felt in her heart still held her back from thoroughly enjoying that kind of relationship. Okay, ready? Cora asked. She ecstatically pulled up to the curb and parked her car. Yep, May whispered as she nervously unbuckled her seat belt. Cora was already jumping out of her car and closing the door behind her before May could open the passenger side door. May slowly stepped out, suddenly feeling a rush of butterflies in her stomach. She shyly looked around. She began to follow Cora up the driveway to the open garage door. It was as if the whole school had come out. Carefree teens ran around in a mania. Although just minutes after 10, many were already definitively drunk. Don't worry, I'm not drinking, but I don't want to see you pass out somewhere just because I'm not, Cora warned May as they entered the party. May began to have second thoughts about drinking, but recalled Thomas' earlier attempt. I'd rather be drunk than stay with these thoughts in my head. She kept Cora's words at the back of her mind. She knew that her friend was right, but maybe just one cup of the hard stuff would be enough to take the edge off. May casually made her way to the makeshift bar next to the pool and poured herself a Patron and Coke. She hated hard liquor but needed to forget. May hoped that the Coke would hide the strong taste of the alcohol. It didn't. May chugged it regardless. She observed a swimming pool packed with out-of-control teens, who probably shouldn't have been in the water while intoxicated. She continued to push her way through the horde, trying to find a quiet place to escape the debauchery. The home was lavishly decorated. The garden was the only space no one had discovered. May found a cement bench in a garden to rest. A heavy breath escaped her soft lips as her body eased onto the seat. Aside from the few outdoor solar lights, it was dark. The solar lights cast a warm glow on the flowers planted in an artful design. The effects of the liquor felt as if it was entering every one of her cells. Max stood joking and laughing with a few of his teammates when he spotted May Gordon disappearing into the garden. It's now or never, he thought to himself out loud. Hugh, Derek, one of his teammates, questioned. Nothing, Max replied. I will see you guys Monday. He ended as he began to walk away. Each step Max took towards the garden deafened the sounds of the party. His heartbeat was the loudest thing he could hear. And not wind blew through the crowd, and it carried May's name to his ears. Startled, Max turned around in the direction her name was spoken. 3 guys were all staring at the garden and making obscene gestures. Max paused and changed his focus to see what they were planning. As he got closer, he clearly heard one of them shoving their face in May's breast. A sudden rage took over as Max sucker punched the one who made the disgusting comment. Max watched as he fell back into the pool, taking another guy with him. They began to fight, and Max walked away, heading directly to make himself another drink. Goose bumps emerged on May's arms, followed by the memory of hearing Max's voice in her mind. Max's stare warmed her entire being, a sensation she had never experienced before. It didn't feel evil, just different, intriguing. May spun around to see who was there. It was he. Again, May recognized his arousing masculine shape, his sculpted arms, and that rippled stomach that she confidently knew was lying beneath his white shirt. The moonlight behind him didn't help to suffocate the rising emotions she hid so well from him. So far, he stood at the garden entrance holding a red cup, swaying ever so gently. Obviously, he's already tipsy, May murmured. He stood in the shadow for a while longer, finishing his concoction. May began to feel a little anxious as he stepped closer to her. Now she could see what she already knew, it was Max. Somehow May found herself relieved that it was he and not someone else. She had heard her share of drunken stories and misidentification tales to make her second-guess herself. Feeling his familiar gaze, she was now convinced that it was he who was staring at her earlier today. Why? May thought. Can I help you? She lightly questioned aloud, watching him slowly move towards her. Max's gray eyes seemed to shine in the darkness. If I didn't already believe in God, I would now. Only God could make something that beautiful, May thought as a slow, seductive smile appeared on her face. Yes, you can tell me why it's so hard to get your attention, he finally answered. What are you talking about? May asked while beginning to stand. No, don't get up. I will come to you. Relax, Max said, putting his free hand up as he made it to the cement bench on which May was seated. She smiled. There was something about Max, something deeply familiar. So, what are you doing here? I didn't know this was your scene, your thing, Max questioned as he sat next to her. It's not my thing, May replied, looking down and over to some flowers across from them. Max followed her gaze to the flowers. He searched his mind for what to say to her. He did not want to lose her attention. Having her eyes on him, even for a moment, felt serene. You know, not one of those flowers is as beautiful as you. Wow, what a weak line. You're drunk. May laughed, abruptly standing to her feet and walking over to one of the rose bushes. Please, I am sorry. I know I sound cheesy, Max apologized with an amused expression on his face. He quickly stood and walked over to her. May, he gently called as he touched her elbow. Max quickly gulped down the last of his drink and then threw the cup in the rose bush. Oh, charming, Max. Real gentleman-like, May sarcastically responded, turning to face him. Max peered into her eyes. May felt as if he could see straight through to her soul. She swiftly looked away. She didn't want him to see into her and everything she was trying so desperately to shove down. Who would want to hurt you? He mumbled. What? May questioned, sternly stepping away from him, startled by his words. Nothing. Max quickly apologized as he turned his back. I'm so stupid, he thought. She started to take a step forward, needing to get away from him but stumbled. Max heard her feet shuffle and quickly turned in time to catch her. Are you all right? Max asked, guiding her to the bench. Too much, patron, May slurred. Her body instantly felt like a brick. Her mouth became heavy, and she could feel her mind drifting out of consciousness. Wow, what's bothering you? Max questioned. She held her head. Oh man, what am I thinking? She mumbled, just before passing out. Nelson ran into the rose garden. Max, we got to go. A fight broke out, and the police showed up. Nelson yelled, out of breath. Okay, what did you do? Nelson looked at his friend, who appeared bewildered as he struggled to hold on to May. It's not what it looks like. She's drunk, he explained. Oh, no, she's just fallen for you, Nelson replied sarcastically. What? Max yelled back. His adrenaline began to pump through his veins as he saw people trying to escape the police. Max had no intention of getting caught in this mess. Lucky for him, he lived just a few houses away. Max looked down at May. She appeared to be knocked out, and he was not about to leave her behind. Max began to pick her up when Cora Pennington ran into the garden, screaming for her friend. May groaned as her head rolled back onto Max's arm. Nelson, help me get May on my back, Max demanded. Nelson didn't hesitate to help Max. What did you do to her? Cora angrily yelled as she stomped towards Max. Nothing, I swear. She had patron, Max desperately explained. We need to get out of here, now. I can bring her to your car, he offered. Cora reluctantly agreed, not sure of what his original intentions were. They head towards the pool area when Nelson observes cops coming towards the garden area. He grabbed Cora's arm. Look, we can walk out of here, but your friend can't. If the cops see her like that, we are all in trouble, Nelson quickly explained. He motioned for them to step further into the garden. Thank you for listening to Chapter 5 of Endurance: The Power Within.